Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Arnor, Community Lead at StartSpace State Library Victoria. It's my esteemed privilege to be able to bring you this panel discussion around impact and purpose. I think any conversation around business is remiss if we don't really discuss how you can do good whilst you're doing business. I just wanted to introduce the panel to you. And then let them introduce themselves. It's actually our most diverse panel geographically for the festival. One of the great things and benefits or silver linings of this period is you can actually ask anyone around the world to speak and not necessarily have to find the budget for hotels and flights, because you send them a Zoom link and they do us the massive favor of waking up extremely early and joining us today. So just wanted to introduce our three speakers and then throw to them. So we have in the room today, Mateo Palacio Gomez from Charity Bay, all the way from Melbourne, Australia. We have Sasiranga De Silva coming in from Colombo in Sri Lanka. And we have Betty Othal, who's from DivTal, who's coming in from London. So Betty's woken up at 6 a.m. this morning, today, and is joining us today. So maybe I'll just throw to the three panelists to just do a quick introduction to who they are and what they currently do. So maybe over to you first, Mateo.
Hey everyone. So thanks for the invitation. It is a pleasure to be here with you. So I'm Mateo. I come from Colombia. I have been in Melbourne for the last 6 years, and I am the co-founder of Charity Bay and founder of Luxury Color Events.
Great. Thanks, Mateo. Then over to Betty.
Hi, everyone. I'm Betty Othal. I am currently I am a HR professional by profession. I'm currently doing 2 years in London. I am Aussie, so I'm only here for 2 years. And I'm also the co-founder of DivTal, which I'm looking forward to speaking a lot more about later on. Nice to meet you all.
Thanks, Betty. And finally, Sasiranga.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sasiranga De Silva. I'm the director and the chief engineer of Thermalar Industries, and we operate from Colombo, Sri Lanka. My expertise are on sustainable energy, electric vehicles, and manufacturing. And I'm also an academic. I lecture at University of Moratuwa full time. Yeah. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Sasiranga. So the format for today will be, we'll just have a bit of a conversation, a Q&A, and we're also using the Slido platform. So for everyone listening out today, slido.com, Future Founders Festival, and you can feed questions into this conversation that we're having with the panel. The discussion today is just really around that intersection of impact and purpose whilst you're trying to run a business. So the question that we'll open up with really, I guess, is each of you have very diverse businesses, not just geographically, but industries as well. And you're focusing on solving some of the world's biggest problems, very important things to be working on. Could you tell us a bit about your journey from where you started and how you ended up to where you are today? Who would like to go first?
Betty, would you like to go first?
Oh, such gentlemen in the room. Thanks, Mateo. Yeah, happy to go first. So how did I start my DivTal journey? So as I mentioned earlier, that I am a HR professional. I have been a HR professional for about 8 years now. And my co-founder is also a HR professional. Another thing we have in common is that we're both South Sudanese women. And while working in a very large corporate bank in Australia, we quickly realized that when we looked at our HR team, that there weren't many people who looked like us, and representation of African women or even just migrants was very low. And we were both passionate about trying to just have more people looking like us coming and seeing them and really providing them opportunities to be able to actually kickstart their career just like we did. We also both had challenges kickstarting our career, and we only were able to really get into the corporate space through a diversity and inclusion program that was running at the time. So quickly, we realized that we're both passionate about wanting to be part of the solution, playing it forward. And we started going to a lot of events, lots of networking events that were all about how do you bridge a lot of these gaps around employment and how do you help migrants really kickstart their career. We found ourselves at a business accelerator program quickly, fast forwarding. So through these events, we found ourselves going to socialpreneurships, and then a business accelerator opportunity came along through Hatch Quarter, which I think you may have met Ayman.
Ayman Hamouda was on a panel yesterday.
Ayman. Oh, great. So he is our mentor, but also we went through his business accelerator, and that's how we really got our essential idea, which was born out of our passion and just the fact that we just wanted to give back to the community. And the only way we knew how to was through HR. We're both professionals, and we knew that we had insights that can really help organizations start looking at how to diversify their workforce. So that's how the idea of DivTel came about, and the Business Accelerator helped us really move it from an idea to a product. It helped us gain the network of trying to find a platform, which we were able to find. And our journey actually took 2 years. So this is a very quick way of saying startups don't just happen overnight, but it was a 2-year journey from ideation to product. And it was with the support of the Business Accelerator that Ayman's team have. So it's kind of a rounded way of saying that it started off with passion, and then it started off with being in the right place, the right networks. And then we were able to look at problem solving, research, and it took a very long time to get us to finding the right platform and actually collaborating with a platform that already exists and recreating it to create what it is now, DivTel, which is an online job platform that connects organizations with culturally diverse talent. And you can find out a lot more about it, and we can talk through a bit more about it later on. But essentially, it's live right now, and it's a really exciting time for us.
I guess that speaks to a lot about representation, but then also access, knowing what's out there in the ecosystem to access. Just throwing to maybe Sasiranga, journey, and just, coming to Australia, and then where to from there, and how did you end up where you currently are?
Yeah, so I studied automotive engineering, and after I completed my bachelor's, I joined University of Moroto. That was back in 2012. And since I joined, I've narrowed down my research into sustainable energy and mainly focusing on electric vehicles. We were building different kind of powertrains for electric vehicles. We were developing different sort of hybrid energy sources, for example, like combining lithium-ion batteries with supercapacitors. So we were doing a lot of research into electric vehicles. And while I was doing that, there was this old tuk-tuk. It's that's what we call it, or we call it a three-wheeler, a rickshaw. So basically a three-wheeled vehicle, which is very common in Asia and Africa.
I think all over the world, like a lot of countries have that. It's a becak, it's a bemo, it's a auto rickshaw.
Yeah, so I'll call it a tuk-tuk. So there was this old tuk-tuk chassis in the automobile laboratory, which I thought would be a good candidate to convert into electric. So I converted it to electric and did some testings inside the university, and it worked very well. And meanwhile, we got a request from the Ministry of Environment to the university asking to look for the possibility of converting the tuk-tuks, mainly the two-stroke tuk-tuks in Sri Lanka to electric, because we have the two-stroke engine tuk-tuks and the four-stroke engine tuk-tuks, but two-strokes are now actually banned from importation because the emissions are much higher than the four-strokes. So the government had a plan to convert all the two-strokes into electric to reduce the local greenhouse gas emissions. So when they made the request, I had already done a conversion, so I got in touch with them, and only after that I thought of making it, looking at the commercial aspects of this project. So then I needed financing. So I was participating in a number of competitions. I wanted to do a pilot project, so for that I wanted financing. So I got $20,000 from United Nations Environment Program through a competition they had. And then there was another local competition that was called the Green Energy Champion, organized by the German Embassy in Sri Lanka. and we became the private sector winner of that and got another $25,000 grant. For with that, we further improved. We did pilot project, and we came up with the final version of our tuk-tuk. We did a lot of research into this because tuk-tuk is a low-cost product, and we are using lithium-ion batteries, so the conversion cost is quite high. So we continuously did our research, trying to bring down the cost of conversion and also come up with feasible business models that actually can enable this to be, to be afforded by the tuk-tuk drivers. So we finally came up with that, and now we are talking with the Department of Motor Traffic in Sri Lanka to figure out how to get these tuk-tuk registered so that they can actually buy one and drive it on the roads, because we don't, at the moment, we don't have a proper guideline to get these converted tuk-tuks registered. So that is where we are now.
That's the current step. So I'm hearing that, you saw an opportunity, and then it kind of came in with like really great environmental impacts and outcomes, and then so you just went with this business idea. And I think in conversations with you, Matteo, that's also kind of how Charity Bay started, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. I think that the basis, and well, first, like what you have told us is amazing. In our case, it has been some similarities, and it is because we believe that by finding some potential and something that could be expanded, we can also help the environment, and more importantly, help the charities. So, well, a bit about me. As I told you, I was born in Colombia, and I came 6 years ago. I came here just to study English, and technically it was just for 6 months, and still I'm here. But I came here and I just jumped out of my comfort zone. I had the curiosity of traveling. I came here, and then after that, I developed I found different jobs. Cleaning, hospitality, bartending. I was the worst, for example, as a waiter, but then that gave me the possibility to find a business idea that by that moment was the creation and the management of Latin events. So that's how I started the entrepreneurship journey here in Australia. Then while the company was growing, while La Tricolor was growing, it gave us the possibility to have some profits that we could give, like that we can use them to give back to the community. So we start donating them to some of the causes that were closest to our heart, and then that kind of gave me that fire to realize that with some actions that I also did in the past in Colombia, that I wanted to act on something for purpose. And then that was the perfect timing when my friend Haidar, who is the co-founder of Charity Bay, approached me. We talked about the idea, and the idea was based on something that we have not seen in many countries in the world. And it is that there are many unwanted items in Australia that could have a second home, but people do not give them that second home. They just end up throwing those items to the streets, and they are affecting a lot the environment, like a useful TV or a couch or something. I bet that many people here in Australia have seen many useful items on the streets. So based on that, we thought, why not giving those items a second home, while defining and getting some proceeds, like converting those items into cash, and diverting that cash also to the charities, who are the people that actually need those funds. So we started with that 1 year ago, and it has been a great journey too.
Yeah, no, definitely. Matteo and I have chatted in the past, and he's on my LinkedIn, and every time I just go through my feed, it sounds like he's won another award. Charity Bay wins something else, and it's like a testament to an idea that is gaining traction, because it's bringing together just a model or an idea that makes sense with this purpose. Just wanting to come to that question about purpose. Like Sasiranga, you've got this academic career. Betty, you've got this HR career. What was it about that purpose piece that was important to you? And I guess, how does purpose guide your decisions when specifically around this thing that you founded? Maybe throwing to you, Betty. How does purpose drive everything?
I think purpose is a higher power that just really guides you that you didn't really know you had. It's really driven by passion. But I think purpose comes from, for me as a migrant woman, and knowing that my parents worked really hard to even just bring us here to Australia. I've always felt that if I got into a space, which is unfortunately quite rare for me to get into a space like the corporate space, as a migrant female woman, I have always said to myself that I have a duty to make sure that I'm opening that space to others who are like me, who have had similar journeys, similar challenges, and similar barriers. So I think purpose for me is based on this higher power where it's based on impact on others. So there's the direct impact on me, which is good, but there's no impact in this world like the impact you have on others, which is the one that you cannot quantify in any way. So I think purpose for me just comes from feeling that I have to always pay it forward, because I am, I guess, odd number. But I don't want to be an odd number anymore. And if I don't do something about it, who will? And it's not for always waiting for other people to do something about it. So yeah, impact on others, I think, is the biggest kind of purpose aspect for me, and it keeps me going all the time.
Yeah, that's just.
I think if it was for me, I just get a bit lazy. Like I'm like, oh, it's for me. I'm like, oh, that's all right. If I don't get it, who's gonna it's only gonna impact me. But when I realize that if I don't have this conversation, if I don't create this job, I could change somebody's life, because we know that work empowers people in many ways. And when it comes to migrants, it actually empowers not just them individually, but it actually impacts their community, impacts their trajectory, and just, yeah, there's so many benefits to finding the right job and kickstarting your career.
Yeah. Matteo, did you have something to add just there?
Yeah, well, it's just that I align so much with the opinion of Betty, and it is that social purpose does not mean that one needs to be the hero. It's just that we are giving the possibility, and we are showing to everyone that they have the power to generate that change, to give back. So as you were saying, it is like you are opening the diverse worlds, and you are giving the opportunity for companies to realize the power on the diversity. And we align full with that, because we have seen how with Charity Bay, and you are very kind with the words that you were saying, but we are actually not the heroes. The heroes are the charities, and the heroes are the users that are going on a daily basis, and just by buying something with purpose, or by donating an item that they're no longer using, they are changing the life of the other people. So it's basically like a bridge, and that's the power of growing, of allowing that bridge to be bigger and bigger for everyone to participate.
I think there's commonalities there. It's just like you both position yourselves as like a conduit or a connector, and it's like opportunities, a group connect, just so that there can be better outcomes. And Sasiranga, would that be similar as well? I guess in your case, like having the opportunity to come to Melbourne, then head back to Sri Lanka. Who are the end users that can benefit most from the work that you're doing?
Yeah, of course, the exposure that I got from Melbourne really helped me with what I'm doing here. And about the purpose-led businesses, of course, we are working for a greater cause than what the ordinary businesses are working on, I would say. In my case, of course, it is to make an impact on the environment, make the environment more pleasant for all living beings. Particularly talking about Sri Lanka, of course, I always had my concerns about the climate in Sri Lanka. Even now, we feel that the weather is a little warmer than what we felt when we were little. So there's obvious climate change happening here, and the rainy seasons have slightly changed, and that has affected the cultivation of the country, and the respiratory diseases in the upcountry have increased, because that is where all these harmful gases go and stagnate. And of course, all these causes have to do with the climate change, and our business focuses on reducing the greenhouse gas produced locally. So that is the main the purpose, and also the goal of functioning of the company, to reduce global greenhouse gas emissions and to contribute what we can in doing so. But apart from that, there are side benefits of this. Of course, by converting to electric, the running cost will be reduced drastically. So these tuk-tuk drivers, they are in the low income class, so they can save some amount of money, and they can use that to reinvest in their families and uplift their lives. So that is one. And also we focus on promoting local manufacturing, local value addition, because Sri Lanka is a developing country and manufacturing industry can do a lot to improve the economy of the country. So we focus on local value addition. For example, at the moment, we import this motor controller and the battery management system, which are the circuitries that control the whole power drivetrain of the conversion. And now we have started developing those components in-house. So we have developed a prototype and we are testing it now. So in the future, we hope to reduce the components that we import and try to add value locally. So that is one. And also through that, we hope to create jobs in Sri Lanka. So those are the main impacts that we hope to give to the environment, the society, and the workforce in Sri Lanka.
That sounds like a very exhaustive list, and this. It sounds amazing. Like you've just hitting so many different parts of the supply chain, and then having multi-impact. And I guess that speaks to, I guess, what the work of a lot of people in this space are doing. An example that I used to always use, and then they've done something about it, is the Thank You Water model, which is one of the more prominent social enterprises here in Australia. It's like they started with a water bottle, and then in different lenses, it's like, having a disposable water bottle isn't great. And they called themselves on it and recently stopped producing their first product because they always knew that wasn't the great bottle, but they didn't not start. And I guess that's a question that I want to bring to the panel around impact. It's like, where do you want your impact to go to, and where would you like to see it in 5 years? Like, you're doing what you're doing now. What's the dream? Where could you go to in 5 years based on what impact you've already seen? Maybe to you, Matteo?
Of course, it is very hard to just be 100% sure of what is going to happen in 5 years, but we are working for every person to understand and to unleash, to be equipped with that power to help. So most likely in some years, it will be not just about unwanted items, but it will be more about all the things that people are able to convert into money, because we want to delete and remove the misunderstanding and the misinformation that people has that money is necessary to help others. In Australia alone, more than 8 million people decide not to help just because of their financial situation. But there are many ways how we can help. And in fact, it's not only about like the help that you're providing by yourself, also you are giving your life purpose by doing some change in the community. So we feel and we see and we envision that in 5 years, it will be not only in Australia, but worldwide, people are seeing other ways and are discovering the power to help.
Maybe over to you, Betty. What would you, based on the impact that you've achieved thus far, where would you like to be in 5 years?
I would like to say that we don't want to exist, and we want organizations to organically be hiring diverse talent, and we're not required to connect because they realize the benefits. But I know that's not going to happen, purely only because I currently in London, they look at diversity in all of its facets. So they look at cultural inclusion, they look at gender, they look at the LGBTI. So they look at every aspect of diversity within their community. I think Australia is actually a good 5 years behind London, because right now in Australia, what we're finding with our conversation around cultural diversity is that they're still concentrating on things like gender, and they're having a lot of trouble as a corporate organization to understand that you can actually look at diversity in all of its facets, and actually you should be looking at diversity based on the community that it currently represents. And Australia is growing and growing when it comes to its migrant community. So in 5 years, we would like Australia and corporate organizations in Australia to start really looking at cultural inclusion as another metric that they look at, and another focus area when it comes to diversity, and actually just looking at diversity in its whole entirety. So that's our focus, and we just want to, at DivTal, our vision is to create a more inclusive future of work. So however we do that is a win for us. And if we're just moving the dial slowly, we know how it is when it comes to change in the corporate world, but we're in it for the long haul, and we're always looking for the next thing, because we know we are just a connector when it comes to diversity, and that's the recruitment side, but we are also looking at what can happen after you recruit these amazing diverse talent. It's now, how do you create a more inclusive environment for them to progress and actually make their way to leadership where real change happens. So we've got a long way and lots of things that we're looking at.
But definitely, like, just speaking to colleagues and friends in that diversity and inclusion space, like if an organization or a group are just looking at one lens of diversity and like trying to just, I don't have capacity to do everything else, I'm just doing this one, it really speaks to a lack of understanding of systemic structural bias. Yeah. And so you can't just focus on one tick box. You need to like kind of step back and fully educate and understand what needs to change.
Yeah. It's a struggle we're having right now. They're like, oh, but what about gender? You're like, well, actually, you should look at everything, because you don't only have women in the workforce, you've got everybody. But, I've learned a lot by being here in London, because they're already on that drive. And we know it's going to happen in Australia. We're just waiting for when the corporates start to look at it, and we'll be ready with DivTal.
Yeah, on a certain different things in the, I guess, the social enterprise, like the social impact bonds, like the Australian scenes always seem to look at London for just some hints of what's coming up. And I love that you, like, in 5 years, you don't want to exist in an organization. That's a really powerful thing to state. And I was first made aware of that kind of conversation from a friend from Sydney called Wei Yo, and he's a social entrepreneur, and he stepped down from his very hands-on role because his whole idea was to make himself redundant in the organization he built, and to really cede power to people on the ground, grassroots operators, so that they know when to step back and know when to hand over. So Sasiranga, big things over in Sri Lanka, to really combat global warming, to like provide employability and increased income for the tuk-tuk drivers. Where do you see the business in 5 years?
Yeah, so as I said, the main goal is to tackle climate change by reducing the local greenhouse gas emissions, and also to give that benefit and rewards to our stakeholders. So with this project, actually, the change that we'd like to see is actually to see more electric vehicles on the road, particularly converted tuk-tuks, because there's a large fleet of tuk-tuks in Sri Lanka, which is about 1.3 million. So about 300,000 of them are two-stroke tuk-tuks, which are very harmful to the environment. So we hope to convert as many tuk-tuks as we can. And also, of course, these are driven with electricity now at the moment in Sri Lanka. About 30% of the electricity comes from hydro, so which is renewable and sustainable, environmentally friendly. And we hope to pursue the government to increase that the contribution coming from the sustainable portion to the grid. So driving with electricity will be much greener. And we have done a life cycle assessment to see the impact of conversion of these tuk-tuks, and from that we found that if we convert the half of the existing fleet of tuk-tuks to electric, there will be over 1 million tons of carbon dioxide equivalent reductions annually. So that's a huge impact. So that is where we are hoping to go, at least to try to convert half of the fleet of tuk-tuks here into electric.
And just a follow-up question. Like there's other, it sounds like you need a few other players to move, and invariably when you want to do something and you're trying to share your vision, you might come against obstacles, you might come against things that don't go to plan. So for you, initially, Sasiranga, how do you like motivate yourself when the business is going one way and then you hit a roadblock, things don't go to plan? How do you
Yeah, it's
stay
not
motivated?
say like there's a lot of stakeholders involved in this. With my project, of course, the Ministry of Environment is involved, and we have to constantly keep on talking to the Ministry of Industry and Commerce. We have to apply for tax concessions because, as I said, we have to keep the cost of the conversion as minimum as possible. So we have a lot of government stakeholders, and at the moment we are working with the Department of Motor Traffic on trying to get in this conversion registered. So there are a lot of obstacles in doing this, of course, but obstacles never really discouraged me. Actually, I like them. That is what make this interesting, I think. I mean, if things were really easy, I don't know. I don't think I'll enjoy this ride as much. And I think I always think positive. So whenever an obstacle come, I'll work my way through it. I will work day and night till I get through it. So if a difficulty comes in my way, I'll make it a challenge and take it as a challenge and somehow try to prove myself that I can overcome it. And that is, I mean, overcoming challenges is what actually gives you that sense of achievement and keeps you going.
It just builds that resilience, learnings. Yeah, Betty, have you are you similar in how you react, how you stay positive when faced with challenges or moments where the HR people just don't get it and like they don't get your vision? How do you stay motivated in light of obstacles?
Yeah, I'm lucky. I have my co-founder Lorna Deng, and we share our frustrations together. We vent, get it out, complain, and kind of go, "Why is the world like this?" But then we always come back to the purpose of DivTel. We look at our candidates, and we also concentrate on all of our allies. We have so many, so 100% agree with Sasi in saying that. Yeah, it's looking at the things that are going well. And we also aren't attached to our product in a way that if it doesn't have to go, if it's not like, it doesn't go this way, that this is my baby and, we're not that attached to it. And I think it helps us stay agile. It helps us really look at how can we find solutions and not be so attached to them. And I think that works really well for the both of us. We're not that attached to anything that we create. And even with COVID, launching through COVID, we kind of took it as a way to say, yes, COVID is probably not the best time to launch when there's recruitment freezes happening. But we said it's a good time to build that talent pool. It's actually a really hard time for candidates. If anything, unemployment rates are getting higher. So we did it more for our candidates, and that keeps us motivated as well. Again, back to the purpose. Take it back to the purpose when you're having those bad days.
I'll let you in a little secret. So this is in the inner workings of the back end of organizing the Future Founders Festival. It's been many, many months in the process. And one of, like, as you were mentioning before, Betty, one of the things that got me through, when you had to wrangle a lot of things and organize a lot of things, was just looking at our amazing diverse speaker list and knowing that there's an audience out there that's primarily an international student or international student alumni audience, and there's lots of startup events all over the world, all over Melbourne, but like, has there been one with this much migrant entrepreneurship speakers on the platform, international student alumni? And so, as we were saying before, you can always improve diversity. It's not we've made it, we're done, we're there, but it's what can we do? How do we keep working hard on that purpose piece to try to pull off a really great event to inspire people? And I think that's just a bit of inner working to how this
100% agree.
Sort of came about. Matteo, how do you just keep doing what you're doing?
Well, I agree with you that like the reason behind everything is that gives like what gives the fuel, and like the mission is what gives us the power. So like if the mission was just about, I don't know, like just about making money, then if something does not make money, then you just simply quit. But because you have a strong mission, then that gives you the power. And it is not only that, especially now with COVID, I think that the mental health plays a significant role in all the community. And with that mental health, what we have seen And in our team, what we have done is that we want to be very supportive, both professionally and personally. So we want to be supportive, and we want to create that environment where everyone has, like, on the beginning of the day, if they want to, like, let's say we have some time for exercise, or meditate, or to eat well, like starting the day on the right foot, and also having that circles of people that trust us and that support us as well. Like, my wife has been incredible during all this time, and my friends, and Haidar, the co-founder, and all the team, Amir, all the social media team, everyone is just like, we are a family. And I think that that's one of the biggest things here during the COVID, because we feel somehow some detachment with the community, and this is a way that we can feel that we're still together, even if we are just on different locations at the moment. So mental health, I think that is key. And of course, having a why. If people don't have the why, it is hard for them to stay or working on that journey, because it will bring a lot of surprises.
I think on that point, it's also recognizing the privilege that maybe people of our generation have, that opportunity to choose somewhat, versus, say, for me, my parents' generation, it's just, arrive, work to get food on the table, to get kids through school. Just wanting to remind everyone out there listening in that you can pop through any questions to the panel through Slido, so slido.com, and then the Future Founders Festival hashtag to get any questions to our amazing panel. Just wanted to now, I guess, speak a bit about misconceptions. So maybe you have or you haven't, you've been, at an event, and under your title, there's the word social entrepreneur, and that there's so many definitions for that word as well. Have there been any misconceptions that you faced when trying to explain people your work, or the social purpose of your work, or just, trying to explain what a purpose-driven company is? What misconceptions have you come across as you've navigated?
I think that there is a common misconception that because there is something for purpose, or that is a social enterprise, then the idea is not to grow. That, like, some people align a social or a for purpose entrepreneurship more to, let's say, something that is small, that maybe just helping one community. Maybe they think more on the, like, charity, but like something small, not even something expandable. While social enterprise, the reality is, and the ideal is, that it is like meeting both worlds, doing something good for the planet, or for the community, what the charities do, as well as, like, the world of the for-profits, that what they do is they look for something to be expanded. So what we want is that our main impact, or let's say our main DNA, is to create impact. So for us, our KPIs and what we want is really to create impact, but we manage the organization as we really want to expand and to have something massive. So I think that there is a bit of a misconception over there.
Have the other two found that as well in your work?
Yeah, I think the misconception is that we're a charity and it's one-sided. And I think this is where it's probably the best business you can do. The concept of SDGs and good business is, if you're not heading that way, you're actually not going to do very well as a corporate. And I know this exactly what you're saying, Matteo, is this concept of shared value. And the shared value is by hiring a candidate, you're changing their world, but you're also changing your world. And obviously, for us, all the benefits of hiring diverse talent is everywhere, and it's been researched. So the shared value is the misconception sometimes, that you're actually doing, it's kind of one-sided, you're more of a charity and you're more helping the candidate. Yes, you're changing the candidate's world, but you're also changing your organization in so many ways. The reputational benefits, the diversity of thought, and obviously just getting an awesome person in your organization, a bit of color, a bit of fun is always good. So I think there is a misconception sometimes, and we are also revenue generating. We need to keep our businesses going. and they need to understand what part of that is, yes, a bit of our business, but yes, ultimately it is to continue to provide more opportunities for others is usually the main concept. So it's just trying to help them understand a little bit more than they usually tend to. But yeah, it does happen.
Betty, I wanted to also agree with you on that shared value, because there is another misconception, especially with social enterprises in the beginning, is that they think that just because they're saying that they're social or that they're helping, they'll be successful. And it has to we have to have that mindset of realizing that just not because we are helping, people will continue helping us, that we have to have a product that is 10 times better than anyone else. And on top
Correct.
of being the best, then we have to add some value to the community. But like just even taking out the social element, we have to be better, and that's the only way that we can grow. But there is a lot of potential.
100% agree.
Like the
more
product,
pressure on us, if anything.
the product still needs to stand up. So, example of fair trade coffee. Like, yes, it might be great. Ethical supply chains, very important. But the coffee still needs to be good at the end of the day, right? Like, it needs to be a quality product that you still want to pay for without too high a premium. I guess there's people out there who are asking for advice. So we've got a question that's coming in. Is gender a challenge when it comes to innovation, leadership, access to resource? Directing perhaps to you, Betty, with your HR hat on, what's your advice to young women innovators and entrepreneurs? And what would be your one key advice?
I always start with my HR side. I always say start with self. So self-awareness is huge. Understanding what your strengths are, concentrating on your strengths, and not, us women are very good at beating ourselves up at, we could be better at this. We all have really, we all have strengths, and it's just about understanding them, being able to articulate them. So really going on that self-awareness journey. And then it helps you then concentrate on whatever you're good at, and you start realizing, wait, I'm actually passionate about these things. And they usually are quite aligned with what you're good at. So I always say, find yourself, find what you love to do, find your passion, and then find your purpose. And that's how you start living in your purpose. So with my HR hat on, do a lot of self-reflection, understand what you really want to do and where you can contribute, and then just go for it. Just go for it. Don't look back. Obviously, there's risks involved, but be ready to be very uncomfortable. Again, us women, very calculated. As a woman, I say, try and think like a man for a bit, but in a very womanly way. So I say, think like a man in the way that they just go for things, but then do it in a very calculated woman way, because you can't take away our amazing instincts and our gut feeling. So yeah, I always kind of advise to look internally, and then externally your world will start changing, and you'll find yourself in the right platforms, around the right networks, and ultimately living in your purpose, which is what we all want to do.
Amazing. Thank you, Betty. Just throwing that there to I guess the rest of the panel. Sussy, your lens would more be, what's your advice to maybe someone who's spending a fair season here in Australia studying, but then maybe moving back to a home country and wanting to start a business? Could you offer any advice to just that almost reverse culture shock, and then speaking to, what's your advice to starting a business back home?
Yeah, so whether it's a purpose-driven business or usual business, for-profit, non-profit, at the end of the day, if you want to succeed in business or anything for that matter, you can't give up. Just don't give up. That is advice I have to give. Obviously you're going to face a lot of problems, difficulties, depending on the kind of business that you're in. But success will eventually come, but you can't predict when it's going to come. So you just have to move forward, working towards it. Failures are inevitable, but the day you actually lose is the day you think of giving up and maybe think, oh, I had enough and let's go do a job or something like that. You might get there faster if you're lucky enough, but let me tell you that it's not the case for most of the time. It's a very rare case that you made it, you're going to make it at one shot. I mean, you can look at statistics on business success and see for yourself. So it might work for you in the first year or the second year or the fifth year maybe, but you'll never know if you give up halfway through. So my advice would be to never give up until you get where you want to get.
And just continuing learning through that process. This morning, we had a session with Grace Wong, and she was talking about, her day job, which was a lawyer, and then moving on to be a founder. And there was this really lovely analogy of, your financial wallet growing, but where's your emotional and mental well-being wallet? It's like your jobs, you spend so much time there. So, what are the effects of what you do? Matteo, any examples or advice you can give to someone starting out thinking about this world of social entrepreneurship?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, you have to act. Done is better than perfect. I think that, like in my example, when I started with the Latin events company, I had no idea about events. And here with Charity Bay, my friend and I, he's a pilot, I am an economist. We like to get and disrupt the charity sector in Australia, which sometimes is one of the most conservative ones. We had no idea what was going to happen, but like you figure out as long as you believe in the cause. So I'll add that. And I agree also with my colleagues here that it is all should be also about you, like self-awareness and how you can get the most out of you. Sometimes we tend to think, or let's say, sometimes we don't feel that, we don't think on us, we just perceive ourselves just as like what we think that someone else think about us. That's how we perceive ourselves. And that's sometimes when we have that, when we are just trying to guess what other people think about us, we leave that room for thinking maybe that they are judging you, or maybe that you are not good enough. Well, you have to trust in yourself. In my case, like I have seen how, like, even when I started with the company event, no one asked me like if I was not from Australia, or if I was an international, or like about my diversity, or maybe my skills. No one asked you about that, because if you believe in yourself and you just like continue saying, no, I can, no one will ask you for that. And for the ones that ask you, you do not care, because everything, like everyone has the power to change, and everyone is human. There is no like superhero or just like people that create something massive because they are not humans. Everyone is human. It's just about that self-power and self-awareness, I believe.
I think just throwing back to Betty's point before, like if companies don't realize the importance of including diversity and this the opportunities afforded to us through like diverse talent, then those companies will, I guess, fall to the wayside as more innovative, diversity of thought teams will just grab opportunities and be able to see them and then act on them quicker. Just mindful of time, just wanted to thank our amazing panel for this session. Thank you for waking up earlier to some of them. Thank you for dialing in, and just really, I guess, like as we come to the end of the day for the festival, like, there's students out there thinking about businesses, but also potentially in that mix starting to think about how just through the course of business you can have some positive impact in different ways and hitting different problems that you're seeing, and just as Matteo said, just being true to yourself and really understanding who you are, because I think the problems that you yourself have gone through and that lived experience will help inform better solutions and, I guess, build better businesses. So just wanted to thank Sasiranga, Matteo and Betty, and thank you so much for your time and being part of the Future Founders Festival. Thank you, everyone.